Entire civilizations once thrived in darkness beneath our feet. We are about to descend into the world of hidden underground cities, 25 ancient marvels carved from the living rock. By the end, you will understand how these subterranean worlds reshaped human survival and redefined architectural genius. Why would a community choose to vanish below ground? And what incredible secrets did they leave behind in the silence? What does it truly mean for a city to be a refuge? The story begins not with a whisper, but with the sound of a massive stone slab grinding shut. Beneath the sun-baked plains of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies a hidden world that redefines what a city can be. Derinkuyu is a multi-level metropolis carved directly into the soft volcanic rock, a place where entire communities could disappear from the surface world for months at a time. Its origins stretch back to the 8th century before the Common Era, a project begun by the Phrygians and later perfected by early Christian communities seeking refuge. But to call it a simple shelter is to miss the point entirely. This was a triumph of survival engineering. Think of the planning required to sustain thousands of people in total darkness. Derinkuyu descends an astonishing 18 levels deep, a vertical labyrinth of living spaces, storerooms, and communal halls. Ingenious ventilation shafts, some stretching over 100 feet to the surface, provided a constant supply of fresh air, making the depths breathable. They carved out stables for livestock, ensuring a supply of milk and wool. They built dedicated rooms with wine and oil presses, turning the necessities of life into a sustainable underground industry. They even constructed chapels, places for spiritual solace deep within the earth, proving that a refuge must nourish more than just the body. Perhaps most astonishing is the city's connection to a wider network. Long, narrow tunnels, some only wide enough for a single person to crawl through, linked Derinkuyu to other underground settlements in the region. This was not an isolated bunker, but a node in a vast subterranean web, a hidden highway system for a civilization that lived with one foot in the light and one in the shadows. The scale of this endeavor speaks to a profound understanding of geology, community, and the relentless need for security. Derinkuyu set the standard, a masterpiece of hidden architecture that prompts a haunting question. If this was the first city on our list, what even greater wonders of the underground world remain to be discovered? But the story of Cappadocia does not end at Derinkuyu's deepest chamber. A mere 5 miles away, another city waited in the dark, built by the same hands from the same soft rock, yet following a completely different blueprint for survival. This is Kaymaklı. If Derinkuyu was a vertical fortress plunging into the earth, Kaymaklı was a sprawling, horizontal labyrinth designed for a different kind of endurance. Its architects chose to spread out rather than dig down, creating a network of 8 expansive levels organized around colossal central ventilation shafts. These were not just air wells, they were the beating heart of the city, the central courtyards of a sunless world where light and fresh air were channeled to every corner. The design philosophy here leaned heavily toward community. Vast, open halls served as collective living spaces, places where hundreds could gather, work, and find solace together during long periods of confinement. Walking through these chambers today, you can almost hear the echoes of daily life, the murmur of conversation, the sounds of craftwork, the shared stories that would have been vital for morale when the world above was too dangerous to inhabit. Yet this emphasis on community did not come at the expense of security. The entrances to Kaymaklı were guarded by engineering marvels of their own, massive, circular stone doors that rolled across the passageways like millstones. These could only be operated from the inside, a one-way lock that sealed the community in safety while sealing any threat permanently outside. The very presence of such intricate, fail-safe mechanisms speaks volumes about the reality these people faced. It was a world where the warning could come at any moment, and your entire civilization had to be able to vanish silently and completely behind a wall of stone. Comparing Kaymaklı to its neighbor Derinkuyu is a masterclass in human adaptation. Faced with identical threats and working with identical material, two communities arrived at two brilliant but distinct solutions. One dove deep, a compact and layered stronghold. The other spread wide, a communal hive built around shared air and light. Both were perfect answers to the same terrifying question. What do you do when the surface world is no longer your home? This architectural divergence in a single valley hints at an even broader truth. If the need to go underground was this universal, how many other cultures, in how many other corners of the ancient world, felt that same primal urge to bury their cities for safekeeping? Yet the ingenuity of these underground architects did not stop at air, water, or massive stone doors. In the smaller, more intimate city of Özkonak, we find a different kind of innovation, one designed not for the body, but for the human voice and the human spirit. Here, carved into the same soft tufa rock, engineers created something extraordinary, a dedicated communication network built directly into the stone. Narrow, vertical tubes, perfectly smooth and just wide enough for sound to travel, were meticulously chiseled to connect different levels of the city. These were not ventilation shafts. Their design was all wrong for moving air. Instead, researchers believe they served as ancient intercoms. A whispered message from a guard on the 4th level could travel clearly up to the communal kitchens on the 2nd, or down to the storerooms on the 6th. A warning, an all-clear signal, a request for supplies, all could be transmitted instantly through the living rock without a single person having to traverse a dangerous staircase or corridor in the dark. This transforms our understanding of life in these depths. It was not just about hiding, it was about maintaining a connected, functioning society while hidden. The very existence of these speaking tubes reveals a profound awareness of the psychological strains of confinement. In utter darkness, cut off from the sun and the horizon, isolation and disorientation could be as deadly as any external threat. Özkonak's architects fought that invisible enemy with stone and geometry. They ensured that even when families were separated by multiple floors of solid rock, they were never truly alone. A voice in the tube was a lifeline, a tether to community, a reminder that the entire city was awake and alert together. This subtle, brilliant feature highlights a central truth about these subterranean worlds. Their greatest challenges were often human ones. How do you prevent panic in the dark? How do you coordinate thousands of people when you cannot see them? How do you keep a civilization from crumbling into fearful silence? Özkonak's answer was to turn the very walls into a nervous system, allowing the city to think and act as one single organism poised for survival. It represents a leap from pure defensive engineering to social engineering, proving that to build a successful refuge, you must first understand the heart and mind of those who will call it home. And if the communities of Cappadocia were this sophisticated in their hidden world, what happens when we find an underground city whose primary purpose was not hiding from people, but hiding something far more precious and eternal? The quiet hum of daily life had to continue even in the deepest refuge. This brings us to Mazı, an underground city that masterfully balanced the sacred and the practical, proving that survival meant more than just enduring, it meant thriving. Nestled in the same Cappadocian landscape, Mazı presents a different facet of the subterranean world. Here, the evidence points not just to a fortress, but to a self-sustaining agricultural hub, a place where the community planned not for days or weeks of confinement, but for seasons. The most telling features are the large, circular grinding stones, permanently set into the floors of certain chambers. These were not temporary tools brought down in a panic. They were fixtures, as much a part of the architecture as the walls themselves. Nearby, deep storage pits were carved into the bedrock, designed to hold grains, legumes, and other staples at stable, cool temperatures for extended periods. This was a larder built for the long haul, but Mazı's ambition went beyond basic sustenance. Archaeologists have identified extensive areas clearly dedicated to winemaking, complete with fermentation tanks and pressing rooms. Think about the implication of that. In a place designed for ultimate security, where space and air were precious commodities, they still carved out room for the craft of wine. This was not a mere luxury, it was a profound statement of normalcy. It meant that even under the threat of siege, the rhythms of cultivation, harvest, and celebration were meant to continue. The very act of producing wine, a process that requires patience and foresight, speaks of a community that refused to let their culture be buried along with their city. The layout of Mazı adds another layer to its story. Its winding, sometimes confusing tunnels and numerous small, secluded chambers have led many researchers to suggest it also served as a monastic retreat. In this interpretation, the city provided a dual sanctuary. It was a physical stronghold against worldly threats, and a spiritual haven for contemplation and prayer, a place where silence and separation from the surface world were not imposed by danger but chosen for peace. Mazı, therefore, stands as a powerful testament to the holistic vision of these ancient engineers. They understood that a true refuge had to protect the body with food and walls, the mind with purpose and craft, and the spirit with spaces for solace. It was a fully realized habitat, a capsule of civilization designed to preserve every facet of human life through times of unimaginable uncertainty. This seamless blend of monastery, farm, and fortress in a single underground space forces us to ask, if cultures could create such self-contained worlds beneath Turkey, what other forms of underground life might have flourished in the distant, arid landscapes of another continent entirely? From the sun-scorched plains of Anatolia, we now travel to the cool, damp green of northern France. Here, beneath the quiet village of Naours, lies a hidden city carved not from volcanic rock, but from a soft, white canvas of chalk. This geological shift changes everything about how a refuge is built. The chalk was soft enough to carve with simple hand tools, yet stable enough to hold the weight of centuries, inviting a different kind of expansion. It began humbly as a Roman-era quarry, a place where stone was extracted to build the world above. But over generations, the people of Picardy saw a greater potential in those empty galleries. They began to dig not for building material but for survival. Through the long, terrible span of the 100 Years' War and the countless smaller conflicts that swept across the region, this quarry was transformed. It became a subterranean village designed to swallow an entire population from the landscape. The scale is almost beyond belief. The network at Naours sprawls across more than 300 individual rooms, a labyrinth on 2 main levels connected by long, sloping tunnels. They carved out everything a fleeing community would need. There were spacious stables to protect their livestock, the very foundation of their agricultural life. They built 3 separate chapels, places for prayer and solace in the perpetual twilight. They designed ingenious chimney flues that dispersed cooking smoke through hidden vents in the hillside above, preventing their location from being betrayed by a telltale plume. At its peak, this chalk city could shelter up to 3,000 people, an entire society waiting in silent suspension for the danger above to pass. Life here was austere, lit by the flicker of oil lamps, the air cool and still. But it was life preserved against the chaos of the surface. What makes Naours uniquely haunting, however, is not just its size but its memory. For centuries, those who sheltered here left their mark. The soft chalk walls became a living guestbook of desperation and hope. Medieval villagers scratched symbols and dates. Then, centuries later, a new wave of seekers found this sanctuary. During the grim stalemate of World War I, Allied soldiers stationed in the region discovered the caves. On their precious hours of leave, they descended, not for shelter from bombs, but for a moment of eerie tourism, a respite from the trenches. And they, too, left their signatures. Today, you can see over 2,000 graffiti inscriptions, names and regiments from Australia, Britain, and Canada, etched alongside marks from the Middle Ages. This creates a breathtaking timeline, a palpable connection across the centuries. It tells a universal story, written in stone, of human beings from wildly different eras all drawn to the same protective darkness. Naours powerfully demonstrates that the drive to bury our cities was not the obsession of a single culture. It was a global human response, a brilliant adaptation of whatever soft stone lay beneath our feet, from the tufa of Turkey to the chalk of France, whenever the world above grew too dangerous to inhabit. But what happens when the stone you carve is not just shelter, but treasure itself? Deep beneath the rolling hills of southern Poland lies a kingdom of crystal, a labyrinth where the walls themselves were once a form of currency. The Wieliczka salt mine began its story in the 13th century as a purely industrial endeavor, a place to extract the white gold that preserved food and fueled economies. For over 700 years, miners descended into that darkness, their work illuminated by flickering lamps. Yet they did something extraordinary. They did not merely extract the salt, they began to converse with it. Generation after generation, these miners, these practical artists of the deep, transformed their workplace into a subterranean cathedral of breathtaking scale and devotion. This was not a city for hiding, but a testament to the human spirit's refusal to let any environment remain purely utilitarian. The sheer ambition is staggering. They carved entire chapels from the solid salt rock. The most magnificent of these, the Chapel of St. Kinga, is a chamber so vast and ornate it feels transplanted from a surface-world cathedral. Every element, from the altarpieces to the intricate reliefs depicting biblical scenes, is sculpted from salt. Even the magnificent chandeliers that illuminate the space are not brought from above. They are crafted from countless salt crystals, carefully dissolved and recrystallized to create prisms that catch the light. To stand in that space is to understand a profound truth. These miners were building a soul for their underworld, but the mine was more than a gallery of wonders. It functioned as a complete vertical micro-society. There were workshops where tools were forged and repaired, stables for the horses that powered lifting mechanisms, and even, in later centuries, a subterranean sanatorium where the unique microclimate was believed to aid those with certain health challenges. For the miners who spent most of their waking lives within it, this was their universe, a place of hard labor, profound artistry, and deep camaraderie. Wieliczka masterfully blurs every line we try to draw. It is an industrial complex and a sacred space, a place of economic extraction and sublime cultural creation. It demonstrates that the human drive to build community and seek meaning does not stop at the mine shaft's entrance. If given centuries and a common purpose, we will inevitably shape our deepest, darkest workplaces into places that reflect our hopes, our faith, and our innate need for beauty. This salt-carved realm forces a beautiful question upon us. If miners could build cathedrals in the dark, what other profound transformations might be waiting in the forgotten underground spaces of the world? The salt cathedrals of Poland show us a world carved from treasure, but what of a city built upon a foundation of necessity, so absolute it became an art form in itself? High atop a sheer volcanic plateau in Italy, the stunning city of Orvieto presents a facade of Renaissance elegance to the world. But its true genius lies in the opposite direction, not in its soaring architecture, but in the vast, silent void beneath its streets. Here, the ancient Etruscans began a project of subterranean engineering that would continue for over 2,000 years. Long before the famous Duomo graced the skyline, these ingenious people were solving the most critical problem of their cliff-top fortress: how to survive a siege. They did not just dig cellars, they carved a mirrored city below the surface, a functional twin dedicated to sustaining life above. The evidence of their foresight is everywhere in the cool tufa rock. They created elaborate systems for olive oil production, with precise pressing rooms and collection channels, turning a vital commodity into an underground industry. They carved out hundreds of small, niche-like chambers, dovecotes designed to breed pigeons, a reliable source of fresh meat and fertilizer that could be managed entirely within the city's hidden depths. Most critically, they engineered intricate water collection systems, channeling every precious drop of rainwater into secure reservoirs. This was not a temporary hideaway. It was the metabolic system of the entire city, a guarantee of independence that made Orvieto virtually unconquerable for centuries. This legacy of digging for survival was so powerful it echoed through the ages. In the 16th century, with the threat of invasion looming once more, the city's Renaissance engineers undertook a project of breathtaking ambition. They commissioned the stunning St. Patrick's Well, named for the legendary purgatory but built for a very earthly purpose. This was not a simple hole in the ground. It is a monumental spiral of stone featuring two separate concentric staircases that coil around a central light shaft, one for descending, one for ascending. They were designed so donkeys laden with water jars could pass each other without ever meeting, a flawless solution for moving a vital resource during a crisis. The well plunges over 200 feet down to the aquifer, a testament to the same relentless focus on water security that drove the Etruscans 2 millennia prior. Orvieto's underworld is a palimpsest, a single manuscript written and rewritten by different civilizations across time. The Etruscan tunnels became medieval workshops, then Renaissance fortifications, and later even World War II bomb shelters. Each generation looked into the darkness left by their ancestors and saw the same undeniable truth, that their safety lay in mastering the world beneath their feet. This continuous thread of adaptation, from the ancient pigeon breeders to the Renaissance architects, reveals a profound continuity of human ingenuity. It suggests that the knowledge of how to live within the earth was not lost but carefully passed down layer upon layer, a silent conversation held in stone across the centuries. It makes you wonder if a city could cultivate such a deep and enduring relationship with its own foundations. What other civilizations might have turned their entire landscape into a living machine for survival? The impulse to carve safety from the earth did not fade with the age of knights and sieges. It simply found new blueprints scaled to the terrifying logic of a modern world. Beneath the vibrant, neon-lit streets of contemporary Beijing, a silent, sprawling city waits. This is Dixia Cheng, the underground city, a labyrinth born not from medieval conflict, but from the icy tensions of the Cold War. Constructed primarily in the 1970s on the orders of Chairman Mao Zedong, its purpose was starkly simple: to shelter the capital's population from potential aerial attack. The statistics are almost incomprehensible. This network of reinforced concrete tunnels, some stories deep, was designed to house up to 6 million people, nearly the entire city at the time. It contained not just bunk beds and stockpiles, but hospitals ready for triage, schools to continue education, factories to maintain production, and even theaters and roller skating rinks to preserve morale. This was a civilization in a bottle, a complete urban ecosystem sealed beneath the pavement, representing the ultimate industrial age evolution of the underground refuge concept. Yet for all its concrete and modern purpose, Dixia Cheng's spirit feels deeply ancient. Its concept is rooted in a tradition of subterranean living that stretches back millennia across China. On the windswept Loess Plateau for generations, people have built their homes not on the earth but within it. These are the Yeadong cave dwellings carved directly into the soft, stable Loess soil. Far from being crude holes, they are elegant, climate-smart residences, staying cool in the fierce summer heat and warm during the bitter winter, a perfect harmony with the environment. This practice of digging in for comfort and security provided a cultural blueprint, a collective memory that made the idea of an underground city feel less like science fiction and more like a return to a proven, if vastly magnified, principle. The Beijing underground city, therefore, stands as a profound bridge across time. It connects the ancient Yeadong builder seeking shelter from the elements to the 20th century civil engineer seeking shelter from the unthinkable. It proves that the human instinct to retreat into the protective embrace of the ground is not bound to any single era or technology. When faced with a new kind of threat from the sky instead of the horizon, we simply reach for the oldest tool in our survival kit: we dig. Dixia Cheng is a monument to a specific moment of global fear, but its echoing, empty corridors whisper a timeless question. If we are still building cities beneath our cities today, what does that tell us about the anxieties we carry and the ancient solutions we still trust? The desire to dig is not always born from fear. Sometimes it springs from a vision so powerful it pulls heaven down to earth. In the highlands of Ethiopia, a king sought not to hide his people from the world, but to connect them directly to the divine. This is Lalibela, a city where the ground did not swallow a civilization, but gave birth to a spiritual metropolis carved from the very sky it reaches toward. In the 12th and 13th centuries, King Lalibela commanded a work of faith that defies simple understanding. His artisans did not build upward with stone upon stone. Instead, they performed a kind of architectural revelation, carving downward. They took the solid, red volcanic rock of the mountain plateau and began to remove everything that was not a church. Imagine standing on a solid rock plain, and with only hammers and chisels, you outline a massive rectangle. Then you dig down and down, a deep trench isolating this block from the surrounding earth. Now, within that giant stone block, you begin the true miracle, hollowing out doors, windows, columns, and vaulted ceilings, all from the top down. The result is not a building constructed, but one discovered, liberated from the living rock. They created 11 of these monolithic churches, each a single, connected piece of stone, emerging from a sunken courtyard. This network of sacred spaces is linked by a labyrinth of tunnels, narrow ceremonial passages, and drainage trenches, forming a symbolic New Jerusalem for pilgrims who could not travel to the Holy Land. The most famous of these, the Church of St. George, is shaped like a perfect Greek cross, standing proudly at the bottom of a deep, cruciform pit. To enter it, you descend into the earth, leaving the secular world behind you step by step. This descent is the entire point. Lalibela was never a hidden refuge from armies. It was a conscious retreat from worldly distraction. The architecture itself forces a physical and spiritual journey downward into a quiet, cool space of focus and prayer. The tunnels between churches are low and dark, requiring a pilgrim to bow or even crouch, a physical act of humility before emerging into the light-filled sanctuary. This was a celestial engineering project designed to isolate the worshipper not for safety but for sanctity. The world above, with its daily concerns, literally fades from view as you descend into this rock-hewn heaven. Lalibela stands as a stunning counterpoint to every underground city we have explored. It shares the same breathtaking ingenuity, the same mastery of stone, and the same profound understanding of how space shapes human experience. But its purpose flips the script entirely. Where others dug to preserve the body from threat, Lalibela was excavated to elevate the soul toward eternity. It proves that the human impulse to shape the underworld is not merely practical. It can be profoundly devotional, turning the earth itself into a conduit for the sacred. This raises a fascinating new dimension to our journey. if a civilization could carve a holy city into bedrock for all to see, what other profound purposes might be hidden in the world's deepest, darkest excavations? The sacred silence of Lalibela's rock-hewn sanctuaries gives way to a different kind of engineering miracle, one born from the relentless logic of a desert. In the arid heart of Jordan, the legendary city of Petra rose to power not merely on the strength of its visible monuments, but on the genius of what its builders carved into the darkness beneath them. While the world remembers the breathtaking treasury facade glowing rose red in the sun, the Nabateans understood that true majesty in the desert begins with a single, precious resource: water. From around the 4th century before the Common Era, they undertook a hidden project of staggering ambition. They engineered an entire subterranean water system, a secret vascular network that transformed a seasonal flood zone into a permanent oasis. This was the city's invisible twin, the hydraulic heart that made every visible wonder possible. The challenge was immense. Petra sits within a narrow canyon, a natural fortress, but also a deadly trap during the rare, violent rainstorms that sweep the region. A sudden downpour could become a catastrophic flash flood in minutes, scouring the canyon floor and destroying everything in its path. The Nabateans responded with a masterful act of control. They did not try to stop the water, they learned to dance with it. High in the surrounding cliffs, they carved intricate channels to catch the first precious runoff. They constructed massive diversion tunnels, redirecting torrents away from the city center and into deep, strategically placed cisterns. Some of these reservoirs were so cleverly hidden within the rock that they remained undiscovered for centuries. Think of the foresight this required. They were not just storing water for a dry season, they were managing the entire watershed of their city, slowing the flood's fury and spreading its gift over months. This hidden infrastructure allowed Petra to support a population of perhaps 20,000 people, along with the countless camels and merchants of the caravan trade. Lush gardens could flourish, public baths and fountains became symbols of wealth and welcome in the desert. The reliable water supply was the ultimate economic advantage, making Petra an indispensable stop on the spice and incense routes, a place where travelers knew they could drink, wash, and replenish. The magnificent tombs and temples carved into the cliffs are the Nabateans' legacy in stone, but their true masterpiece is the silent, dripping network that fed them. It exemplifies a profound principle of survival, that in the harshest environments, prosperity is not built upon what you display to the sun, but what you conceal within the earth. The Nabateans did not just carve a city, they carved a covenant with a capricious climate, proving that to command the desert, you must first command the darkness where its lifeblood flows. The desert's hidden waterways speak of survival through control, but sometimes the deepest excavations aim for something beyond mere sustenance. In the rugged hills of Maharashtra, India, a mountain itself was persuaded to become a cathedral. The Ellora caves are not a hidden refuge, but a breathtaking declaration of faith. A monastery complex of such monumental scale, it redefines our very idea of what carving into rock can achieve. Created over 4 centuries from the 6th to the 10th, this site is a unique conversation in stone between 3 of the world's great spiritual traditions: Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. 34 caves stretch along a 2-kilometer-long basalt cliff face, each one a self-contained world of devotion. Here you find serene Buddhist prayer halls called chaityas, where monks would meditate in the cool, resonant silence. You find Hindu temples alive with intricate carvings of deities and mythic scenes, and you find Jain sanctuaries of austere beauty, reflecting a path of strict discipline. This was not a city for families or merchants, but a vertical city of the spirit, a place where hundreds of monks could live, study, and worship in cloistered isolation, their entire universe defined by the stone around them. Yet one cave stands apart, not just at Ellora, but in the entire history of human architecture. Cave 16, the Kailasa Temple, is a feat that seems to defy the very laws of physics. It is not built, it is revealed. Architects did not carve a chamber into the mountain, they commanded the mountain to give up a temple. The process began at the top of the cliff. Workers outlined a massive rectangle, 3 football fields in area, and then began the staggering work of excavation. For generations, they carved downward, removing an estimated 200,000 tons of solid basalt rock. What they left behind is not a building, but a sculpture on a geographic scale. The Kailasa Temple is a freestanding complex, complete with a central sanctuary, pillared halls, life-sized stone elephants, and soaring ceremonial towers, all carved as one single, connected piece of stone from the living mountain. To stand in its courtyard is to be surrounded by a cliff face that is, in fact, the temple's outer wall. You are inside the mountain, yet in a space open to the sky, a perfect paradox of engineering and devotion. The scale is humbling, but the purpose is intimate. Every chisel mark was an act of piety, a literal embodiment of the idea that the divine could be uncovered from within the earthly realm. Ellora represents the pinnacle of subterranean space as a canvas for artistic and spiritual ambition. It traded the practical concerns of water storage or defensive doors for the pursuit of enlightenment and monumental beauty. It proves that the drive to shape the underworld could be motivated not by fear of the world above, but by a profound desire to create a new world altogether, one that would stand as an eternal testament to human belief and perseverance. If a single mountain could yield such a masterpiece of sacred architecture, what other wonders might be waiting in the world's deepest, most forgotten labyrinths, places not of light and prayer, but of perpetual night and whispered legend. The rock-hewn cathedrals of Ellora represent a zenith of human artistry, a conscious choice to carve the sacred from a mountainside. But this profound relationship with the earth began not with grand ambition, but with the most fundamental of needs, the simple search for shelter from the cold. To find the origins of this story, we must travel to a very different landscape, to the gentle, green hills of Somerset in England. Here, in the limestone caves of Burrington, we step back into a time before cities, before writing, before metal. This is where our ancient bond with the underground world truly took root. These are not engineered cities, but natural cathedrals formed by water over millennia, hollows in the rock that offered a gift of survival to our earliest ancestors. During the last great ice age, when glaciers scraped across the north and the climate in Britain was harsh and unforgiving, these caves became more than just geological features. They became seasonal homes, the very first refuges. Small bands of hunter-gatherers would have sought them out, drawn by the stable temperature that offered respite from the biting winds outside. The cave mouth became a stage for the drama of daily prehistoric life. Inside, archaeologists have found evidence of flint tool-making, the sharp, rhythmic sound of stone on stone echoing in the chamber as they crafted spear points and scrapers. The remains of ancient hearths tell of fires that provided warmth, light, and a place to cook the day's catch, the smoke staining the cave ceiling over generations. But the finds suggest something more profound than mere utility. Discoveries of carefully placed bones, unusual mineral pigments like red ochre, and artifacts that show no obvious practical use point toward another possibility. These spaces may have also served as early ritual sites, places where the community gathered not just for physical warmth, but for social and spiritual connection. In the flickering firelight, against the backdrop of ancient limestone, stories would have been told, bonds reinforced, and perhaps the first questions about the world beyond the cave mouth were given form. Burrington is a humble but powerful chapter in our story. It reminds us that humanity's journey underground did not begin with complex blueprints or defensive strategies. It began with adaptation, with the intuitive understanding that the earth itself could provide a buffer against a hostile world. These early people were the first architects of the underworld, not by carving new spaces, but by recognizing the potential in those that already existed and imbuing them with the essence of home and community. Their story sets the stage for everything that followed, a primal whisper that would eventually grow into the roar of excavation, echoing from the salt mines of Poland to the hidden cities of Cappadocia. It begs a quiet question as we look at the sophisticated subterranean metropolises that came later. How much of that ancient urge for shelter, for a protected circle of firelight in the dark, still resides in their deepest foundations? Yet this ancient bond between people and cave was not a relic of the distant past. In southern Italy, it evolved into one of the most enduring urban landscapes on Earth. The Sassi districts of Matera are a city born from a canyon, a place where the line between architecture and geology simply dissolves. For thousands of years, from the Paleolithic era right up to the middle of the 20th century, people did not just visit these caves, they built a civilization within them. They took the soft limestone of the Gravina ravine and, generation by generation, excavated a vertical labyrinth of homes, workshops, and chapels that cling to the steep slopes like a stone honeycomb. This is not a single, planned underground city, but something more organic, a living example of what scholars call troglodyte urbanism, where an entire community's footprint is carved directly into the earth. Walking through the Sassi feels like moving through the layers of time itself. A home might incorporate a natural grotto used by prehistoric hunters, with medieval arches built at its mouth and a Renaissance facade added centuries later. Narrow, winding staircases are not built but revealed, carved into the rock to connect different levels of the community. Water was the lifeblood of this stone city, managed with ingenious precision. They carved vast cisterns to collect every precious drop of rainwater, channeling it through a hidden network of tunnels and filters, creating a self-sufficient hydrological system that sustained life in this arid landscape. The architecture here is what experts call vernacular, meaning it grew naturally from local materials, climate, and need, not from a grand designer's blueprint. The result was a city of profound intimacy and communal connection. Homes were stacked one upon the other, with rooftops serving as streets for the level above. This forced a way of life where privacy was scarce, but neighborly interdependence was absolute. Sounds carried, children played in shared courtyards carved from the rock, and the struggles and joys of daily life were a collective experience. This deep connection fostered a resilient culture, but the reality within the caves was often one of severe hardship. By the 1940s and 50s, many of the Sassi dwellings lacked basic sanitation, electricity, or ventilation. Large families and their livestock frequently shared a single, damp chamber, leading to significant public health challenges. The Italian government eventually declared the area a national disgrace and relocated the entire population to modern housing in the 1950s, leaving the stone city silent and empty. For a time, Matera stood as a monument to a forgotten way of life, but the story did not end there. In the decades that followed, a remarkable re-evaluation began. People started to see the Sassi not as a symbol of poverty, but as an irreplaceable cultural treasure, a unique chapter in the human story of urban adaptation. Meticulous restoration projects breathed new life into the ancient caves, transforming them into hotels, museums, and elegant homes. This revival reached its pinnacle when UNESCO declared the Sassi a World Heritage Site, calling it the most outstanding, intact example of a troglodyte settlement in the Mediterranean. Today, Matera is a vibrant city once more, its ancient stone heart beating with new energy. It stands as a powerful testament to the complexity of human heritage, a place that holds both the memory of profound struggle and the breathtaking beauty of a city sculpted by time and communal will. It forces us to ask a difficult but essential question: how do we honor the ingenuity of the past while fully acknowledging the human cost that often accompanied it? Matera offers no simple answer, only the enduring, layered silence of the stone itself. But the true genius of Cappadocia lies not in any single city, but in the silent spaces between them. This was not a collection of isolated strongholds, but a unified subterranean territory, a hidden landscape engineered for regional survival. Those massive, self-sufficient cities we have explored were merely the fortified nodes in a much larger and more daring design. Researchers have discovered evidence of long, carefully carved tunnels connecting these underground settlements, some stretching for miles through the volcanic rock. These were not cramped escape routes, but proper underground highways, wide enough in places for 3 people to walk side by side, or for small carts to transport vital supplies. This changes everything we thought we knew. It means the defense strategy was not confined within the walls of a single refuge. If one city was discovered, or if its supplies were running low, or if its air became compromised, the entire population could theoretically evacuate through these hidden corridors, moving in organized secrecy to the next prepared sanctuary. Think of the coordination this required. It implies a shared blueprint, a common understanding of tunnel dimensions and ventilation needs that spanned multiple communities. It suggests the existence of regional guards or messengers who knew these dark pathways intimately, who could guide thousands of people through absolute blackness from one buried city to another. This transforms Cappadocia from a region with many bunkers into a single, distributed organism. Its strength was not in any one heart, but in its entire nervous system. The scale of planning here is almost military in its precision, pointing to a society that lived for generations under a sustained, looming threat. They did not just prepare a hiding place, they prepared an entire hidden country with its own roads, its own supply lines, and its own rules of engagement, all operating beneath the feet of whatever power ruled the sunlit world above. This network stands as one of antiquity's most profound architectural statements about resilience. It reveals a civilization so committed to preservation that they literally rewrote their own geography, creating a second, shadow map of their homeland known only to them. It makes you wonder, with such a sophisticated underground web in place, what other forms of communication, trade, or even governance might have flourished in that perpetual twilight, completely invisible to history until now. The desert sun is a tyrant, but the earth holds a secret refuge from its rule. Far from the war-torn landscapes of Cappadocia, a different kind of necessity drove an entire city beneath the sands of central Iran. In the arid plains near Kashan, the ancient city of Nushabad, also known as Aui, was not built to hide from armies but to escape an inescapable climate. Dating back to the Sasanian era, over 1,500 years ago, this underground complex represents a brilliant pivot in purpose. Here, the challenge was not conflict but comfort, not sudden invasion but the relentless, grinding heat of the desert. The solution was an architectural love letter to coolness. The city descends in 3 distinct levels, a vertical oasis carved from the hard, dry soil. But these were not cramped bunkers, they were spacious living quarters, communal meeting halls, and even places of worship, all designed for daily, year-round life. The true genius, however, lies in how they mastered the very air they breathed. The architects of Nushabad integrated 2 ancient Persian technologies into a single, sublime cooling system. First, they connected the city to a kanat, a gently sloping underground canal that channeled cool water from distant mountain aquifers. This water flowed through tunnels within the city, its presence alone lowering the temperature of the surrounding stone. Then came the wind catchers, the iconic badgers. These towering chimney-like structures rose above the desert floor, but their purpose was to pull air down, not let smoke out. They captured the faintest desert breezes from high above, funneled them deep into the subterranean passages where they would pass over the cool kanat water. The air would chill, shedding the desert's heat before circulating through the labyrinth of rooms and halls. It was a natural, zero-energy air conditioning system, creating a stable, pleasant climate while the surface world baked. This was sustainable living in its most literal and ancient form. Life in Nushabad was a seasonal migration in reverse. During the scorching summer months, the entire population would retreat to their cool, shadowed city, conducting their daily lives in comfort. Workshops hummed, children played in the cool corridors, and community gatherings were held in halls that required no artificial cooling. When winter brought its chill to the surface, they would simply move back up, occupying their traditional homes above ground, using the Earth's insulating properties in reverse to retain warmth. Nushabad redefines the very idea of an underground city. It was not a last resort but a first choice, a sophisticated adaptation that turned a hostile environment into a haven of comfort and community. It proves that the drive to live beneath the earth could be motivated not by fear, but by a profound desire for harmony, a clever way to outsmart the sun itself and build a sustainable future in the most unlikely of places. If a civilization could engineer perfect weather underground, what other profound comforts might be hidden in the world's deepest, darkest spaces, waiting to be rediscovered? The rock itself becomes the roof, a permanent ceiling over an entire way of life. In the sun-drenched region of Andalusia, Spain, the town of Setenil de los Bodgas performs a different kind of magic with stone. Here, the people did not carve a city out of the earth. They built one directly into its embrace, creating a breathtaking hybrid where nature provides the shelter and humanity fills in the spaces. The town winds through the deep, narrow gorge of the Rio Trejo, its whitewashed houses and cobbled streets nestled not just against the cliffs, but actually beneath them. Enormous, sweeping overhangs of solid rock form the ceilings of homes, shops, and even restaurants, with only the front facades constructed by human hands. To walk down the Cal Cuva del Sol, the street of the Sun Cave, is to experience this genius firsthand, moving from brilliant sunlight into the cool, dappled shade of a living rock roof that has sheltered this spot for millennia. This was not a defensive strategy, but one of profound environmental adaptation, developed over centuries since the Moorish period. The architects of Setenil understood the principle of thermal mass. The massive limestone cliffs absorb heat slowly during the day, keeping the shaded spaces beneath them remarkably cool. At night, as the air temperature drops, the slowly released warmth from the rock helps to temper the chill. This created a naturally regulated climate, a year-round comfort achieved not with complex machinery, but with simple, intelligent placement. Life here represents a seamless negotiation with the landscape. The boundary between what is built and what is born of the earth is beautifully, purposefully blurred. A tavern's dining room might have a back wall that is the raw, ancient stone of the gorge, still bearing the marks of geological time, while the front opens onto a lively plaza. This is architecture as an act of collaboration, a conversation with the terrain where the town accepts the gift of shelter the rock offers and completes it with walls, windows, and community. Setenil de los Bodgas stands as a powerful reminder that the human relationship with stone is not always one of conquest or extraction. Sometimes it is an invitation to coexist, to nestle into the existing contours of the world and build a life in the sheltered spaces it provides. It asks us to look at a cliff face not as a barrier, but as a ready-made home waiting only for the right community to move in. The desert's timeless logic finds a startling modern echo on the other side of the world. In the vast ochre-red outback of South Australia, a town exists where the front door is a hole in the ground. This is Kuba Pedi, a 20th-century metropolis born from a single, glittering treasure and an utterly unforgiving sun. While ancient cities were carved for refuge or faith, Kuba Pedi was excavated for a gemstone, the brilliant, shifting fire of opal. Prospectors flocked here starting around 1915, driven by the dream of striking it rich in the rainbow-hued stone. But they quickly encountered a problem more immediate than finding a vein. The summer temperatures here can soar past 120 degrees Fahrenheit, with a sun so fierce it bleaches the landscape and bakes the surface into a furnace. The miners needed shelter, and they found it in the most logical place possible, the very holes they were already digging. What began as a practical necessity, a simple dugout to escape the midday heat, evolved into a full-blown subterranean culture. They realized the abandoned mine shafts and new excavations offered something precious, a constant natural climate control. Underground, the temperature remains a steady, comfortable 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, a perfect refuge from the extremes above. So they stopped building out and started digging in. Today, over half of Kuba Pedi's residents live permanently underground, not in caves, but in properly constructed homes called dugouts. These are not dark, cramped holes. They are spacious, multi-room residences with curved ceilings, fully equipped kitchens, and comfortable living areas, all carved from the soft sandstone. The walls are often left as raw, textured rock, a constant reminder of the home's origin. The town boasts an entire underground infrastructure, with hotels that offer unique subterranean suites, shops selling opals and souvenirs from cool, cavernous showrooms, and even churches where congregations gather in the serene, silent embrace of the earth. The Serbian Orthodox Church of St. Elijah, for instance, is a breathtaking underground sanctuary, its icons and altar glowing in the soft light within a hand-carved chamber. Life here has adapted to the rhythms of the deep. Ventilation shafts are carefully engineered to ensure a flow of fresh air. Skylights and light wells are tunneled up to the surface to bring in natural illumination, creating surprising pockets of sunshine in the living room floor. The community thrives on this unique identity, a place where you go underground to go to the barber, the bookstore, or to see a film at the underground cinema. Kuba Pedi stands as a powerful, living testament to the enduring drivers of subterranean life. It echoes the ancient Nabateans in its origin from resource extraction and mirrors the climate-smart logic of Iran's Nushabad. It proves that the human impulse to seek shelter within the earth is not a relic of a fearful past, but a continuous, intelligent adaptation. When faced with an extreme environment and a reason to be there, we still reach for the same ancient solution: we go down. This modern opal metropolis asks us a compelling question. If we are still creating such communities today, what does that suggest about our future on a planet of increasing climatic extremes? But the deepest mysteries are not always carved from a desire for refuge or comfort. On the sun-blasted island of Malta, a different kind of underworld awaited discovery, one that speaks not to the needs of the living, but to their most profound questions about what lies beyond. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a sanctuary of silence and sound, a sacred city built for eternity, dating back over 5,000 years to a staggering period between 3,300 and 3,000 years before the Common Era. This is not a settlement, but a Neolithic masterpiece of spiritual architecture, one of the oldest known ritual complexes on Earth. Its builders carved patiently down into the soft Globigerina limestone, creating 3 intricate levels of halls, chambers, and winding passages that descend into the island's heart. This was a place of ceremony and rest, a dedicated space where the community engaged with the cycles of life and what comes after. The scale and complexity are breathtaking for a society using only stone tools, suggesting generations of labor driven by a shared, powerful belief. The chambers were likely used for ceremonial practices and as a final resting place for many individuals, their remains carefully placed within this holy darkness. But the hypogeum holds one secret that makes the hair on your arms stand up: a feature that transforms it from a silent tomb into a living instrument. One particular room, known today as the Oracle Room, possesses acoustics so perfect they feel intentional. A low voice spoken in a certain spot resonates through the entire chamber, amplifying and distorting into a deep, vibrating hum that seems to come from the stone itself. Researchers suggest this was no accident. It was likely used for ritual chanting or invocation, a way for a priest or shaman to make the very earth speak, to channel a voice that felt divine and ancient. In that resonant darkness, the boundary between the human and the otherworldly would have dissolved. The hypogeum represents the ultimate spiritual dimension of going underground. It is a testament to humanity's earliest architectural ambitions being directed not at palaces for kings, but at portals for the soul. This was a city for the ancestors and the gods, a place where the living descended briefly to commune, to honor, and to seek meaning in the echoing dark. It asks us a haunting question: when those first communities gathered in that amplified silence, what were they listening for, and what answers did the stone whisper back? The echoing chambers of the hypogeum speak of a world designed for the dead, but some rock-hewn cities were built with a far more ambiguous purpose. High in the mountains northwest of Beijing, clinging to the face of a towering cliff, sits a labyrinth that refuses to give up its story. This is Gyeongju, the ancient cliff house, a silent stone puzzle of over 110 rooms carved directly into a vertical precipice. Dating back over 1,000 years, likely to the time of the Xianbei people, this complex ascends multiple stories against the rock like a fossilized honeycomb, its original architects and their true intentions almost completely erased by time. Walking among its empty chambers today, you are struck not by what you see, but by the profound silence of what you cannot know. Unlike the defensive cities of Cappadocia or the sacred spaces of Ellora, Gyeongju offers no clear answers. Was this a fortress, its high, sheer face making it nearly impossible to assault from below? The narrow windows and limited access points certainly suggest a concern for security. Or was it a monastic retreat where seekers of wisdom could isolate themselves from the world, each small room a cell for contemplation? The presence of larger central halls could support this idea, spaces for communal gathering or prayer. Perhaps it was simply a unique vertical village, a practical solution for a community needing to maximize space on a steep mountainside, close to resources or trade routes. The architecture itself whispers clues but never shouts a conclusion. The rooms are connected by an intricate web of staircases, ladders, and narrow passages carved both inside and outside the cliff face. This is not a haphazard collection of caves, it is a highly organized, three-dimensional community. There are rooms of different sizes and shapes, some with carved stone beds and niches for storage, others that appear to be workshops or communal spaces. The planning is evident in every chisel mark, a clear blueprint for a functioning society. Yet, without written records or clear artifacts, the heart of that society remains a mystery. Why did they choose this extreme, vertical existence? What threat or belief drove them to carve their homes into the very skin of the mountain, rather than build at its base? Gyeongju stands as a powerful reminder that not all ancient wonders come with a manual. Some are left deliberately cryptic, their stories entrusted not to scrolls but to the stone itself. It represents the ultimate enigmatic chapter in underground architecture, a place where the builders have vanished so completely that we are left to reconstruct their lives from the empty spaces they left behind. In its silent, stubborn mystery, Gyeongju asks us a more profound question than any city with a known purpose ever could. Is the true legacy of these places not in the answers they provide, but in the endless curiosity they inspire, the permanent invitation to wonder who walked these stone hallways and what they hope to find in their cliffside sanctuary? A city's history is often written in the stones beneath its streets. In the Czech Republic, beneath the picturesque squares and Gothic spires of Pilsen, lies a forgotten medieval metropolis built not of wood and brick, but of darkness and necessity. This is the Pilsen Historical Underground, a sprawling, multi-level labyrinth of cellars, corridors, and wells that began its silent expansion in the 14th century and never truly stopped. Unlike the remote, hidden cities carved into wilderness, this is an urban underworld, a direct and intricate extension of the living city above, a testament to how medieval European towns relied on the earth for their very survival. The original purpose was deliciously practical. These cool, stable cellars were the perfect environment for two pillars of medieval life: brewing beer and storing food. The famous Pilsner beer, with its need for consistent fermentation temperatures, likely owes its early perfection to these subterranean vaults. But the cellars were more than just giant refrigerators. They were a form of civic insurance. During the frequent conflicts that swept across the region, this network became a refuge, allowing citizens to vanish from the streets and wait out the danger in relative safety, surrounded by their crucial supplies. As the city grew above, its hidden twin expanded below in ingenious ways. The most critical addition was a secret water supply system. Engineers carved wells and connected them through tunnels, ensuring that even if the surface wells were poisoned or seized during a siege, the city had a secure, independent source of life-giving water. This transformed the network from a collection of storage rooms into a vital organ of the city's anatomy. Centuries later, this functional space even took on a darker role, with a replica of a historical prison being constructed in its depths, a reminder that the underworld could serve justice as well as preservation. To walk these passages today is to traverse the functional backbone of a medieval town. Every tavern, every merchant's house likely had a root cellar that connected, directly or indirectly, to this communal web. It was a space for work, for security, and for the unseen logistics that made daily life possible above. The Pilsen Underground shows us that for a thriving medieval city, the most important real estate was not always at street level. It was in the cool, dark earth just a few steps down where the beer was brewed, the grain was kept safe, and the entire population could quietly disappear until the storm passed. This urban symbiosis between the world above and the world below reveals a sophisticated understanding of infrastructure long before the word was ever coined. It makes you wonder how many other historic European towns still sit atop their own forgotten foundational shadows, their original purposes slowly fading into the echoes of empty stone corridors. The sheer cliff face is not a barrier, but a library of human ingenuity, written in mud, brick, and stone across 100 miles of rock. In the remote heart of Mali, the Bandiagara escarpment rises from the plains like a colossal fortress wall, a natural citadel that has offered sanctuary for over 1,000 years. This is not a single underground city, but something more profound, a living, breathing cultural landscape where the very concept of a settlement dissolves into the architecture of the cliff itself. Here, the Dogon people did not merely find shelter, they entered into a conversation with a landscape already marked by an earlier, vanished civilization, the mysterious Telem people. The story of Bandiagara is one of adaptive reuse on an epic scale, a testament to how security, spirituality, and community can be woven into the fabric of a single, dramatic place. Long before the Dogon arrived around the 15th century, the Telem, whose name means "those who were before us," inhabited these same cliffs. They were masters of the vertical world, carving dwellings and granaries into the most inaccessible niches of the rock face, high above the ground, places reachable only by precarious ropes or narrow ledges. Their choice of location was a clear statement, seeking protection from the conflicts and uncertainties of the plains below. When the Dogon migrated to this region, they encountered these silent, empty dwellings perched like swallows' nests against the stone. Instead of ignoring them or building elsewhere, they saw opportunity and meaning. They moved into the lower cliffs and plateaus, but they adopted the Tellem's high granaries for storing their precious millet, safe from pests and raiders. They began using the most secluded upper caves as sacred burial sites, places of deep spiritual significance for their ancestors. In doing so, they created a powerful continuity, physically layering their own culture atop the foundations of the past, turning the entire escarpment into a palimpsest of human habitation. A Dogon village along the escarpment is a masterpiece of integrated design. The homes, often built from the distinctive sun-baked mud brick, cluster together on the rocky shelves, their flat roofs serving as terraces for the level above. But the cliff itself is an active part of the community. Caves and grottos within the rock become cool, secure storage rooms. Overhangs provide natural shelter for communal gatherings or livestock. The villages are strategically positioned to control access to scarce water sources and to provide a commanding view of the approaching plains, an early warning system etched into the geography. This is a defensive strategy born from an intimate relationship with the land, where every fissure and ledge has a purpose. The spiritual dimension is equally woven into the stone. The cliffs are considered the realm of the ancestors, and certain caves are reserved for ceremonial masks and rituals, connecting the living community directly to the spiritual history of the place. The Bandiagara escarpment, therefore, defies simple categorization. It is neither purely an above-ground village nor a hidden underground city. It exists in a fluid space between, a hybrid habitat that uses the Earth's contours as walls, roofs, and sacred precincts simultaneously. This seamless integration of life, defense, and belief across centuries earned Bandiagara its status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized as an outstanding example of a living cultural landscape. It represents a different philosophy of refuge, one not of concealment, but of harmonious and strategic occupation. The Dogon did not retreat from the world, they elevated themselves within it, crafting a resilient society in dialogue with both the natural fortress and the ghosts of those who built there before them. Their story challenges our definitions, asking if the most enduring sanctuary might not be a hidden chamber, but a cliff face that becomes home, granary, temple, and tomb all at once. If a civilization can build its identity so completely within the embrace of a single rock wall, what does that reveal about the timeless human need to find security not just in the earth, but upon its most dramatic and enduring features? A different kind of cliff face tells a story of life suspended between earth and sky. High on the limestone cliffs of central Arizona, the Sinagua people carved their legacy not into the rock, but onto its very surface, creating a masterpiece of vertical living known today as Montezuma Castle. Built around the year 1100, this stunning 5-story structure clings to a sheer cliff wall, nestled deep within a natural alcove that acts as a colossal, permanent roof. It stands as a breathtaking North American chapter in our global story, proving that the principle of using stone for shelter took as many forms as the cultures who embraced it. To call Montezuma Castle a simple cave dwelling would be a profound misunderstanding. This was a sophisticated, multi-family apartment complex engineered for survival in a harsh, arid landscape. The Sinagua, whose name means without water in Spanish, were masters of adaptation. They constructed 20 rooms within the shelter of the overhang, using stone masonry to build walls that integrated seamlessly with the natural curve of the cliff. Ladders made from wooden poles and leather strips connected the different levels, allowing families to move between their private living quarters, shared workspaces, and crucial storage rooms high above the canyon floor. The strategic choice of location solved multiple problems at once. The south-facing alcove captured the low winter sun for warmth, while the deep overhang provided shade from the scorching summer heat. More importantly, it placed the community virtually out of reach, sitting nearly 100 feet up a sheer cliff, the dwelling was a natural fortress, nearly impregnable to raids and offering a commanding view of the valley below and any approaching activity. Life in this aerial village was one of remarkable communal organization and ingenuity. The people farmed the fertile land along nearby Beaver Creek, growing corn, beans, and squash, and would haul their harvest up to the secure storage rooms. The cool, stable environment of the limestone alcove helped preserve their food. They were not isolated either, as evidence suggests they traded with distant cultures from the Hohokam to the coast, obtaining seashells and other goods. This was a thriving, connected society that chose elevation as its primary strategy for safety and comfort. The dwelling was occupied for over 3 centuries, a testament to the success of their architectural vision. Then, around the year 1400, the Sinagua moved on, leaving their cliffside homes silent. The reasons remain part of the region's mystery, possibly involving shifts in climate or water resources that prompted migration. Montezuma Castle, though not a hidden underground city, shares the same foundational genius as Derinkuyu or Bandiagara. It represents a brilliant adaptation of a natural geological formation to fulfill human needs for security, community, and environmental control. The Sinagua did not need to dig deep because the cliff itself offered a ready-made fortress and temperature regulator. Their story expands our understanding of rock-sheltered living, showing that the drive to integrate with stone could manifest as easily on a vertical plane as a subterranean one. It prompts us to look at any cliff face not just as rock, but as potential real estate, a blank canvas upon which a resilient community could write its story in mortar and stone. If such elegant solutions could arise independently in the deserts of Arizona, what other forms of elevated refuge might be waiting, undiscovered, in the world's remote canyon lands? But this architectural conversation with the earth is not confined to remote cliffs or ancient monuments. For millions of people across northern China, it has simply been home. Across the vast, wind-sculpted expanse of the Loess Plateau, a different kind of underground city has flourished for centuries, not as a secret refuge, but as a vernacular masterpiece of daily life. These are the Yeadong cave dwellings carved into the region's distinctive soft, compacted soil, forming entire subterranean villages that represent one of the most widespread and enduring traditions of underground habitation on the planet. To stand on the plateau is to walk above a hidden landscape where the homes are not built upon the ground, but within its very fabric. The process is one of elegant simplicity and profound logic. Builders dig straight down into the loess, a fine, silty soil deposited by ancient winds, carving out a large, rectangular sunken courtyard. This courtyard becomes the heart of the home, an open-air living room exposed to the sky. Then, into the 4 vertical walls of this excavated pit, they tunnel inward, creating a series of arched rooms. A kitchen here, bedrooms there, a storage space further along. The arrangement is often communal, with multiple family units sharing a single courtyard, their doorways facing each other across the shared space, fostering a deep sense of neighborhood and mutual oversight. The genius of the Yeadong is its perfect harmony with a challenging environment. The lowest soil, while soft enough to carve with basic tools, is remarkably stable when dry, holding the shape of arches and tunnels for generations. More importantly, it provides phenomenal natural insulation. The massive thermal mass of the earth surrounding the dwelling means the interior stays deliciously cool during the scorching summer heat and retains comforting warmth throughout the bitter cold of winter. This creates a stable, energy-efficient climate without any need for complex technology, a sustainable design principle perfected long before the word was ever coined. Life in these sunken courtyards is intimate and connected. The courtyard itself is a stage for daily activity where laundry is hung, children play, and meals are prepared, all under the open sky yet within the protective embrace of the earth. The rooms, with their curved ceilings and thick earthen walls, have a quiet, grounding presence. This is not a life of lack, but one of intelligent adaptation. For farming families across the plateau, building a yeadong was often the most economically sensible choice, requiring minimal purchased materials while providing a durable, comfortable, and safe residence. It represents subterranean living stripped of emergency or secrecy, transformed into a normal, even desirable, way of life. The yeadong tradition shows us that the decision to live within the earth can be driven not by fear, but by a clear-eyed assessment of resources and climate. It is architecture born from the soil itself, a direct and enduring conversation between human need and geological opportunity. This vast, living network of underground homes challenges our very definition of a city, suggesting that sometimes the most profound architectural landscapes are not the ones that pierce the sky, but the ones that hum quietly beneath our feet, sheltering generations in their gentle, earthen embrace. It makes you wonder if such a practical and graceful solution has sustained millions. What other unassuming, earth-integrated ways of life have we overlooked in our pursuit of the monumental? The soft sandstone beneath Nottingham's streets proved to be more than just a foundation. It was a blank page upon which 1,000 years of urban life was written. This is a city built not once, but twice, with a shadow version existing in the cool, silent dark below the bustling streets and modern shops. Over 500 man-made caves, carved meticulously from the crumbly rock, weave a labyrinth that charts the entire social and economic history of this English Midlands hub, from its medieval origins to the grim realities of the 20th century. To walk these passages is to move through a vertical timeline where each chamber tells a different story of human necessity and ingenuity. In the Middle Ages, the caves were the city's industrial workshop and its hidden domestic sphere. The constant, cool temperature made them perfect for the malodorous but vital work of tanning leather, a process requiring specific conditions that the caves naturally provided. Other chambers became cellars for brewing ale or storing goods, their stable environment protecting precious commodities, but they were also homes for the city's poorest residents. Carving out a small room in the sandstone was often the only affordable way to secure shelter, creating a subterranean underclass living literally beneath the feet of the wealthy. As centuries passed, the caves adapted. Some were enlarged into illicit taverns and gambling dens, places of revelry hidden from the watchful eyes of authorities. One remarkable chamber was even fashioned into a full underground bowling alley, a place for leisure carved from the living rock. The network even served justice, with sections like the gruesomely named Mortimer's Hole functioning as dungeons and secret passageways connected to the castle above. This constant reinvention reached its most poignant chapter during the Second World War. As the threat of aerial bombardment loomed over Britain, Nottingham's ancient caves were called into service once more. They were cleaned, reinforced, and fitted with bunk beds and basic sanitation, transforming from medieval workshops into modern air raid shelters. Families would descend each night, seeking safety in the same earth that had sheltered tannery workers and medieval brewers centuries before. The sandstone walls, which had heard the clatter of bowling balls and the chatter of clandestine taverns, now absorbed the anxious whispers of parents and the frightened cries of children, waiting for the all-clear siren. Nottingham's caves are a masterclass in urban adaptation. They were never a single-purpose refuge, but a flexible, evolving space that reflected the changing needs of the city above. They moved seamlessly from industry to domesticity, from vice to justice, and finally, from medieval utility to modern preservation. This network demonstrates that a city's relationship with the underground is not a one-time event, but an ongoing conversation where the past is constantly being excavated, repurposed, and remembered. It begs a quiet question as we consider these spaces that have served so many masters. What does it mean for a city to remember the layers of life it has built over and within itself? Nature's own blueprints for refuge were often grander than anything humans could conceive. The final wonder on our list is not a city we built, but a cathedral we found, a pre-made sanctuary of staggering scale that has offered its shadowed halls to countless generations seeking safety. Straddling the modern border between Hungary and Slovakia, the Baradla-Domica cave system is a limestone labyrinth of epic proportions, a natural fortress whose story of shelter begins not with a chisel, but with a footstep into the dark. This is a realm sculpted by water over millions of years, a hidden continent of dripping stone, colossal chambers, and rivers that flow in perpetual twilight. Its passages stretch for over 25 kilometers, a subterranean network so vast it feels like a world unto itself, and for thousands of years humans have recognized its potential. Long before the first defensive tunnel was ever dug in Cappadocia, Neolithic peoples were seeking shelter within these cool, silent galleries. Archaeologists have found their traces, simple hearths and stone tools left behind in the echoing dark, evidence that the cave's immense entrance chambers served as seasonal camps, protected from the elements and any threats roaming the surface. But the cave's role as a refuge did not end with prehistory. Its strategic location and impossible complexity made it a perfect natural stronghold during centuries of regional conflict. When waves of invasion swept across Central Europe, local populations would vanish into the cave's countless side passages and hidden alcoves, taking their livestock and valuables with them. They could disappear for weeks, living by the light of oil lamps, drawing water from the underground streams, their location virtually unknowable to any pursuing force. The cave became a living archive of desperation, with artifacts and markings left behind by medieval peasants, by those fleeing the turmoil of the Ottoman advances, and by others in later conflicts. Each group, facing a different terror, found the same solution waiting for them in the limestone. The Baradla-Domica system brings our journey to a profound and fitting close. It reminds us that our impulse to seek safety underground did not begin with construction. It began with recognition. Our ancestors looked into the mouth of a great cave and saw more than a geological curiosity. They saw a ready-made citadel, a fortress gifted by the planet itself. They understood that the grandest architectures for survival were often already in place, requiring only the courage to step inside and adapt. This natural labyrinth underscores a beautiful continuity in the human story. From the earliest hunter-gatherers in Somerset to the medieval communities of Hungary, from those who carved their own worlds to those who inherited one from nature, the response has always been the same. When the surface grows hostile, we look downward. We seek the enduring, stable embrace of the earth, whether we find it as a blank canvas for our chisels or as a majestic, pre-carved hall of stone. It is a testament not just to our ingenuity, but to our profound, timeless partnership with the very ground beneath our feet. These 25 hidden worlds, from the deserts of Iran to the cliffs of Arizona, form a single, sprawling narrative written beneath our feet. They are not isolated curiosities, but variations on a profound and universal theme. When we step back and see them together, a clear pattern emerges from the darkness. Each one, in its own way, was an answer to a fundamental human question: how do we stay safe? How do we stay cool or warm? How do we nourish our spirit? How do we remain a community when the world above tries to tear us apart? Security, climate, spirituality, and connection, these are the four pillars upon which every underground city was built. They represent the core anxieties and aspirations that have followed humanity for millennia. The massive rolling stone door was an answer to the fear of the invader. The windcatcher and the kanat were a dialogue with a merciless sun. The Rock-Hewn chapel and the echoing oracle chamber were conversations with the divine. The shared courtyard and the speaking tube were lifelines against the crushing silence of isolation. These were not random excavations. They were deliberate, brilliant acts of world building, each one a tailored solution to an existential threat. That threat could be an army on the horizon, a climate that scorched or froze, or a social upheaval that made the surface untenable. In every case, the response was to look not outward, but inward, to shape the earth itself into a shield and a sanctuary. The legacy of this ancient ingenuity is not trapped in the past. It echoes loudly in our present and shapes our vision for the future. Modern architects and engineers now study these sites with reverence, seeing in them masterclasses in passive climate control and sustainable design. The principles of thermal mass so perfectly employed in the Yeadong or Setenil de los Bodgas are now applied in cutting-edge green buildings. The integrated water systems of Petra or the Sassi inspire new approaches to urban resilience in an era of climate uncertainty. Perhaps most strikingly, when scientists plan for habitats on the Moon or Mars, they do not first imagine glass domes. They talk about lava tubes and excavated bases, using the regolith itself as a radiation shield, the same logic that protected the people of Derinkuyu or Naours. Our most futuristic dreams are, in a way, a return to humanity's oldest and most proven strategy for survival in a hostile environment. Ultimately, these silent cities challenge our most basic assumptions about where life belongs. They redefine the very idea of urban space, proving that a city is not defined by its skyline, but by the community it shelters. They are monuments to human adaptability, a physical record of our species' stubborn refusal to surrender when faced with the impossible. To walk through them is to hear a whisper through stone, a message passed across centuries. It speaks of resilience in the face of fear, of innovation born from necessity, and of an enduring, unshakable desire to find a place of safety, a circle of warmth in the dark. That desire, it seems, is carved not just into rock, but into the very heart of what it means to be human. From the deep wells of Derinkuyu to the cliffside prayers of Lalibela, our journey through 25 hidden worlds reveals a breathtaking tapestry of human ingenuity. These are not mere holes in the ground, but testaments to civilizations that turned adversity into architectural wonder. Each carved stone and hidden passage whispers a story of a community faced with an impossible choice, and their brilliant decision to build a new kind of home within the earth itself. They teach us that survival is more than just enduring. It is about preserving the very essence of what makes us human, our need for connection, our search for meaning, and our relentless drive to create beauty, even in the deepest dark. These subterranean metropolises are blueprints for resilience, written not on paper, but in the living rock of our planet. They show us that when the surface world grows hostile, whether from armies, climate, or conflict, humanity has always possessed a profound ability to look downward, to collaborate with the very ground beneath our feet, and to engineer a future from the shadows. The silent chapels, the whispering speaking tubes, the vast communal halls all speak to a timeless truth. In our most vulnerable moments, we do not simply hide, we build. We forge community in the cool, quiet dark, and we ensure that the light of our culture, our faith, and our shared identity is never extinguished. As we return now to the surface world, to the sun and the open sky, let us carry with us a new appreciation for the hidden histories that support our own. Every city street, every quiet village may rest upon layers of forgotten stories, of ingenious solutions to ancient fears. What other secrets might still lie undiscovered, waiting in the unexcavated dark for their story to be told? If you found this descent into history fascinating, please subscribe for more journeys into the past and share your thoughts on which underground city amazed you most in the comments below. Your curiosity is what keeps these ancient echoes